Welcome to the stream, guys. Good morning. It's Thursday, February 4th, 2021. Kind of weird to say 2021 after the longest year. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to do a Q&A today. I saw a couple questions in the chat already, but if you have a question, submit them now. And if you're watching this in the replay, then you missed your chance. And once again, fourth time this week, forgot to turn this light on before I started. Because it's on battery power, I don't want to run it before I need it. Okay. So, anyways, yeah, just put all your questions into the chat. I got a few that I collected from the Facebook group, and I've got just stuff from the channel as well. Someone was saying, so much room for activities. Yeah, the dual monitor setup. Let's go to the other camera. So I've got two Dell 27-inch 1440p screens. They are fantastic. I don't really know what, in terms of specs, I don't really know. That 1440p and 4 USB ports, USB 3 ports, which has been super helpful. The top one is on a monitor arm, so technically I can move it, but I'm probably not going to. And the first one has no stand on it, but I've got this piece of wood screwed in here to keep it propped up against the shelf. So yeah, when you have two 27-inch monitors, there's no way to get your speakers in a position where they're not blocked by the speakers, or by the monitors. So yeah, that's what I do. What else? You can see my Panasonic G7 over here. And that's about it. Acoustic treatment all around, and that's yeah, that's pretty much it. Stream Deck to control my angles. All right, so first question. Try to grab one from the chat. I've already collected a few of these. All right, so first question. From Gummy, I have MIDI drums. When I change something in the MIDI, for example, in verse 2, I want those changes to also be applied to verse 1. What's the best way to do this? Also, what if I want a specific change not to be repeated? For example, a different drum fill. Recently found the pool MIDI source when copying functionality. Is this the best way? Yeah, that is the best way. It's not something I use too often. Personally, I don't mind like copying, pasting, removing something and pasting with something else that I've changed later on in the process. But pool MIDI source would do what you're saying. And for everyone that doesn't know how to do that, let's just start fresh. So I've got a track. I'll put in a MIDI item. Let's say it's 8 full bars long. And if I want to copy it normally, I would drag and drop like that, holding the control key. There's also a pool MIDI source function. So let's put some notes in here. And I'll just do like, just something kind of, oops, that was my screen set. All right, so I've got that pattern in there. If I want to copy it, it's somewhere hidden. And so every time I want to use this, I end up having to like look for this. There's this toggle pooled MIDI data. Maybe that's it. I don't think so. No, I don't think that's it. Maybe it is. I bet Kenny has a good video on this. I just never use this function at all. All right. Mouse modifiers, maybe? Worst worst prepared Q&A ever. Okay, so we're going to do media item and drag, and let's see. Yeah, there's copy item and pool source data. So what's the default? Shift, Control, Alt. All right, so on Windows, it's going to be Shift, Control, Alt, and drag. And so that did get a new icon, and it changed color. I'm not sure why it changed color. I don't think there's a preference for that, but maybe there is. But now when I change one, both items are changing. And so, well, to make this unique, what you could do is glue the item. Oh, that did both. That's odd. Yeah. Interesting. If I take 3 of them and glue 1. Yeah, okay. So if there's multiple items, they'll stay pooled, but now this one is independent. So we figured it out together. I think, oh yeah, the pool icon for sure, that as well. There must be another thing in media item appearance for that. Yeah, pooled MIDI is here. So useful function, I don't use it a lot, but yeah, useful. All right, next question. Also related to MIDI from Grant Henry. How does Reaper decide what settings to give a MIDI media item? When working with a mix of drum tracks and synth tracks, I routinely have a drum set to diamond notes, named notes view, hide unused, and unknown note rows, custom grid. While I have the synth view set to rectangles, piano roll view all notes shown, custom grid. When duplicating, gluing, moving, etc., I find I have to change my settings to get back where I was. I never lose CC names, but the other MIDI settings in the MIDI editor seem to go out the window. So in short, how does Reaper determine the settings for MIDI item? Is there a way to glue items together and have the same MIDI settings and actually retain MIDI settings? Is there an action built to change all settings at once to a preset that I could map to an action button in the piano roll view? Not having much luck figuring this out. So I've experienced this as well, and there's a few things that I think that can be. So in the MIDI editor, we've got this options menu, and in here there are, where is it? There's one setting that's important. One MIDI editor per project, per track, or per media item. And then when you're using per project, there's also this option for mostly for views and following the selection. So I have this on per project right now, but in general, I keep it on per track. There's also so once you choose your settings for your default, you can save a project template, and let's actually just change this. So let's change this to options. Oh, you guys may not have seen that. Okay. View, no, contents, one MIDI editor per track. And let's change this to drum edit mode. So I definitely feel like there is a bit of randomness in this, but let's just try to figure this out. So I'm putting in another MIDI item on another track. When I bring this up, it's following the last used. So if I go to contents, it's still set on track, but it didn't like go back to the piano roll mode. So I do have buttons in the toolbar that I use to go from piano edit mode and drum edit mode. So if I put some notes here at random, go to drum edit mode, only the notes that are there, and I can switch back to piano roll. But yeah, this is something that bothers me as well. All right, so I'm gonna delete this, set this to drum edit mode, delete the track. You can save a default project, and hopefully those settings are saved. Also in preferences under one of these. Yeah, there's this option here. When using one MIDI editor per project, there's that option. One editor per track. It's interesting because I had this set on. Oh no, this ends up being changed by the items as well. So it's kind of weird that this is a global setting, but it can also be changed by a single item. So I don't know. It's annoying for sure, but all right, so how do you actually how do you practically get around it? The answer is track templates. So insert track from template. If I use an instrument like, I think I've got this set up for the, probably the JMOS ones. I think I have this set up. All right, so I put in a MIDI item here, and so it's loaded up with my drum map. You know, my drum view is set up the way I like already. So, yeah, the most practical way of changing this is with track templates. But let's also put in another instrument, and I don't know. It doesn't really matter what instrument I put in here. I'll put in a synth. And I do this, I double click there, and this track got the drum mode as well. So in this case, I have to switch to piano roll mode, close the editor, and if I switch back to the drum editor on this track, that did stay the way that I preserved the settings. So basically, what I think is happening is it uses the last used until you set something. So if you set a specific setting for a track, it should stay on that whenever you're using one project per track. But if you make a new track, it's going to use your last used settings. So if you're editing drums, you add in a second drum instance, then that should stay with drums. But if you're going synth to synth or synth to drum, then maybe those things change. But I do highly recommend setting up your piano edit mode and your drum edit mode preferences as toolbar buttons. I have a video called MIDI editor toolbar or something like that, custom MIDI editor toolbar. And that should explain how I did that. But let's just briefly look at that as well. So if I go to edit action, this is what I use. View show events as diamonds, drum mode drum map, and view hide unused and unknown or unnamed note rows. And then piano mode. Show events as rectangles, mode piano roll, and view show all note rows. Pretty simple. All right. I'm not ignoring the chat, but I've got a few questions already kind of lined up here. So next up, I've got a question from Matt Mitchell. I'm using Keylab Essential with Reaper. What I'd like to do is set up a user map to control plugins inside Reaper. When I do MIDI learn, Reaper does not recognize the CC inputs. So I don't have an Arturia keyboard here, and so I can't access that software. But it sounds like the issue is more inside of Reaper's MIDI settings. So if you go to Preferences, Audio, MIDI Devices, and you find your controller, so in my case, it's Automat MIDI, make sure that Enable Input for Control Messages is enabled. That should let Reaper see that controller. So yeah, that should be all you need to do. But yeah, just do a follow-up if that doesn't help. All right, so okay, so I'm looking at chat now. Gummy says, one thing I don't like about the pool MIDI thing is that only one part is active. I can change notes velocity in other parts, but not the velocity via mouse modifiers. Sorry, man, I don't use this function that often. I don't understand. But if you think that's a bug or a missing feature, put in a feature request on the Reaper forum, and they always consider everything. AM Remorse says, hey, I don't have any questions, but I'd like to commend you for your dedication and perseverance when it comes to this channel. You've been on my radar since like 2014, at least I think that long. Yeah, well, thanks for following me for that long, or any length of time. It's pretty awesome to be able to do this. I never thought that I would be on camera for a job. You know, being the goth kid, I guess, back in high school, I never thought I'd be like, you know, but of course YouTube didn't exist back then. So it's like, it's a whole career that I've kind of made for myself using the YouTube opportunity. Yeah, it's amazing, and couldn't do it without the support of people actually watching. So I think we're going to be at 45,000 subscribers, and like this week, something like that. I think that's insane. Yeah, we're like 15 away from 45,000. So realistically, this year I'll be at 50,000. It's just, I can't comprehend that many people watching a video of mine. Okay, what was I doing? Got a little derailed there. Okay, another question. This one's actually from email, so I don't have a name on this one. I have an old version of Reaper and want to use a new computer. How do I install the version in the new computer? So the installing is just as simple as downloading again, running the installer on the new computer. If you want to import your settings from the old computer, it's a little more complicated. If the old computer is still working, you can go into Reaper's preferences, and on the first page, general, you can do an export of your configuration. This will create a zip file that you can then import on the new computer with the import configuration button. Personally, I don't use that. I just go into the Reaper folder, this one here, and I just select everything and copy it over. If it's easier for you, you could select all and zip it, send to compressed zip folder, and then put that into the new Reaper folder on the new computer. So on the new computer, you'll have to run the installer and then launch Reaper once, to fill in that folder, you can go to the options menu, show Reaper resource path in Explorer/Finder, brings up this window, close Reaper, replace everything in this with your backup, and then restart Reaper. Anything that's incompatible or old or whatever will get replaced by Reaper, but everything else should be like merged. So like old preference file will still be compatible with new versions of Reaper. Once you get that imported, you need to go into your paths, because if you're installing on a different hard drive, if your username is different or anything like that, just update it. So here it's Reaper blog, but on my MacBook, it's John Tidy. So anytime I'm importing things, well, on a Mac, it's totally different path, but same sort of thing. If you're importing a configuration and you want it to go smoothly, you have to update all the paths, these two paths, and your project settings path, your auto backup path, things like that. I usually don't expect plugins to work, so I don't even always import things like your the effects browser settings, things like that. I just do that fresh for each computer. I do have a video on this about moving settings between computers. I think it's just like what to expect when moving a Reaper configuration. So I'll email that info to the person. Do I have any other questions saved here? I think I've done those. All right, how long have we been going for? Why don't I see that? 29 minutes. Okay, so I want to pull up a question. Well, really a comment that came in today on YouTube. And I just even know where to start with this. Okay, so this comment came in on the Reaper 6.20 video. I'm fond of Reaper, especially plugin selection and workings killer, but the master bus sounds way too clogged and mathematically crunching in comparison to Pro Tools on the PC. Tested this on multiple occasions. The master bus of Reaper needs work. I don't know how to handle this question. There's no technical reason why any DAW would sound different, but there seems to be a perception a lot of times that Reaper sounds better or Reaper sounds worse than others, and I never understood it. I don't know. It's just software, and it's, summing audio is one of the simplest things, and it never would have gone past version 1 if it actually sounded worse. So I think the whole thing's ridiculous. But if you can prove it, then fantastic. I think more times it's been proven otherwise more times than not. So there's another interesting one. Why even address it? Yeah, good question. Just because I get I get silly questions sometimes. I should say that even though my channel has grown in size, the community has stayed very positive and encouraging, and just it's filled with good people. And I see other channels that maybe the host of that channel has kind of a pessimistic attitude, or they get involved in a lot of drama or anything like that. I'm not going to say who, but if you look at their their comment section, it's all super negative, very toxic, and I don't find that to be the case. It's like 1 in 1,000 comments is negative or, insulting to me personally or anything like that. But, I think even though the channel has grown and the community has grown, more people are using Reaper, in this part of the internet, you guys are nice to me. And yeah, so that makes me feel good. So this one, I think it's called cheating. Good con though. Takashi69 won't snitch with this stuff, I bet. Yeah, lots of pop artists do it because they can't write themselves. Integrity has gone down the toilet. This was posted on a video. Remember Reaper plugin window positions, screen sets, and startup. What? He must have commented on the wrong video. It's really, I don't know. It's yeah. The internet, you can say whatever you want, but sometimes you put it in the wrong place. Okay, I'm gonna look at chat again. I'm not ignoring chat. I get distracted if I read it too much. Hello guys, anyone lately have a problem with SWS autocolor? Every time I load a project, half of my track's colors are gone. Pretty frustrating. Color code bigger projects every time I start working. I would look at your rules and see if there are things that contradict. So let's say, things like track types, like if they're record armed, if it's VCA master, things like that, these ones in brackets, they need to be at the top most of the time. Children usually goes below, so just watch out for that. Like, if I have a vocal track, yeah, just, it's usually things like that. Just if you have like children above one of the other ones, it won't work correctly. That's my best guess. There's also this force button that will update a project. Sometimes autocolor doesn't change immediately. Sometimes you have to, I probably can't force it to happen right now, but yeah, it did, but I don't know. It should. Okay, Matt has a follow-up with the MIDI controller. It's working in DAW mode and analog lab mode. Okay, so if I remember correctly, you set up, I had the mini lab. Maybe I can try to find this. Trying to find a screenshot of the editor. No, I can't find a screenshot of the editor. So you need to choose another MIDI channel, and then in the I don't remember. It's been a couple years since I've had the Arturia keyboard. I remember there was some sort of issue with it. Maybe check out my review of the Mini Lab and see if there's any clues in there, because yeah, I've forgotten all of that stuff by now. Okay. Does Reaper have a chord track? I also need loops to sync quickly, coming from Studio One, Ableton, and really hoping to find all the strong features in those DAWs in Reaper. Chord track, no. There are some scripts that can kind of help with that, but I don't think it's exactly what you're looking for. Where you can choose the chords and then it changes the other tracks below it. I don't think that's available. Similar things, but nothing as no native function. Syncing loops quickly, your best bet is to work from the MIDI editor, not MIDI editor, this one, Media Explorer. And you can't see this. Right there. So if you have a loop and it has BPM info put in there already, like this one, set tempo match to on, and you drag it in. There. Drag it in. It's automatically changed its speed to match, and it's exactly 4 bars, which you can't see. There. This is exactly 4 bars. So, yeah, when you work with the MIDI Explorer, it should, or Media Explorer, it should be like that. But also, if you take, let's actually find something here. Let's go to the actual folder, and so if you start out from Windows Explorer or Finder on Mac, and you just have the file, if you import it, you get this pop-up for matching tempo. So this is a Rex file, so it already has BPM and slices in here. So there's various options. Beat slices that dynamically adjust to tempo changes, a single loopable, can't speak today, a single loopable media item that adjusts to project tempo, a single loopable media item with transient markers, or ignore slice and embedded tempo. So if you don't want it to sync, that's the one. Any of these other ones will automatically fit your tempo. So I'll do beat slices. And so this was originally 65 BPM, I think. And so it's, yeah, it's all chopped up, and it, no, just can't see that. It's all chopped up at each transient because that's how Rex files work. But it exactly matches my project tempo. Yeah, and if I change the tempo, it should automatically do that. It should automatically switch as well. I think it is. Yeah, so it's automatically faster. Change this to 120. So, yeah, pretty simple. Chris R says, caught you in João Madero's stream. Yeah, he's a great guy, and try to help him out with Reaper questions as he's streaming. I don't always catch his streams, but he's doing great stuff. I have a feeling that he's going to pass me in subscribers pretty soon. Yeah, his channel's going to catch on for sure because he's working harder than anyone else I've seen. Okay, just trying to catch up on the chat. Okay, so a question about themes. Let's get this here. How do I edit and save a Reaper theme correctly? Every time I change something, the new file is just 4 to 20 kilobytes. Okay, so there's a couple things involved with theme editing. I don't know if you've seen my video on theme editing or how I did my custom theme. It's not a complete tutorial. It's just kind of like some things that I learned. And I was supposed to do a follow-up, but I lost steam on it. My custom theme is never finished. And I switched computers and it was like even worse. I had to redo a bunch of stuff. Anyways, let's go to the theme tweak. Once you make any change to a theme, you have to hit save here. So if you're changing any of these colors, hit save and you save it to a new file. So the theme file is how do I even explain this? A theme file is one way of doing this. So if you're just making changes that have to do with the theme development window, you save it to this. This is a different type of file than the others in the Reaper theme folder. So color themes, like these Reaper theme zip folders. So my Reaper theme is this one plus everything in this folder. And inside this folder, let's just actually look at, no, not that button. This has 23 megabytes of files on it. And so in here, I've got different images. I've got, my image resources are in here. If you are just making a change to a theme, like let's say you take default 6, you change some colors in the theme editor, and you hit save, you're just going to get one of these Reaper theme files. You won't have a folder unless you go in and extract the theme. So if you could take default 5 dark Reaper theme zip, you rename it to Reaper theme .zip, confirm, and then you can extract it. And now this theme is slightly broken, but that gets you access to the unpacked folder, and there's all the files, all the image files that go along with it, along with the rtconfig thing. There's a lot of resources on theming in the Reaper forum, but it's not an easy task. So expect to spend like, I don't know, 20 hours on it at least. A new theme file points to another theme file, so it's based on another theme. Yeah, so let's take, if I go to load theme and I choose default 5, and then I change the, let's do empty arrange view area. I change that to this. Looks disgusting, but yeah. And then I hit save, and yeah, put it in the color themes folder. Let's do mod. If I go to load that, you can see here that in the image resources path, it's still choosing the theme zip from default 5. You could choose a different theme folder, and this is kind of a weird thing. It can be a little hard to find another theme folder, but you could choose a different one. So I can choose the Reaper 6 theme. It didn't. There. Okay, so now I'm using a Reaper 5 theme with Reaper 6 images. It's kind of weird. But yeah, just watch out for things like that where you save something and then it loses the theme file. So this one, I'm using the Reaper, my custom folder. But if I take the Reaper 6 folder, what is it? I guess it's just called default. Is using the zip file, which is this one. Okay, so if I change the colors with the action thing and want to save that, I have to do it in another theme editor like the full one. So if you're just changing colors in this window, you can do the small save file, and because the image files aren't saving, but anytime you're changing the image files, it has to be a new theme. You don't need to zip it again, like make it into a Reaper theme zip, unless you're sharing it with someone. And there's some special things in there that make it not break. But for most users, you're just changing some colors, and yeah, just the you can reuse the image resources from another theme. I just saw something. Okay, great question from Vertigo Pulse. When will Reaper implement input quantize? It's your lucky day, because this was actually done years ago. It's just a little bit hidden. So if we right-click, there it is, yeah. If we right-click on the record arm button, you get all of the record-related functions, and you go to track recording settings, and input quantize is right here. So quantize 8th notes, 16th notes, any resolution you want, using nearest value, previous value, next value. So I use nearest. You can quantize the note offs if you want them to be exactly 8th notes or rounded to the nearest 8th note. There's a strength control, there's swing, quantize within a certain percent. I just have everything set to default, and I usually quantize to 8th or 16th. So it's a little hard to get to that, so I've actually added that to my toolbar, my main toolbar, this track rec button. These settings are per track, but it's definitely kind of a hidden function. And the cool thing about that is if you record MIDI with quantize and then you find that it's quantized the wrong way, it's actually non-destructive. So you can go into the MIDI editor, open the quantize window, and turn off quantizing, and then it gets you back to your original recording, or exactly what you played, not the quantized. Are Reaper plugins able to be used in other DAW? If so, how would you go about it? On Windows, there's the replugs. I'll look this up. Replugs. VST Suite. This is only on Windows. So download button here. And so these are like version 3. I think last updated in 2016. So these are pretty old, but yeah, they work. It may just be the colors or the screenshots haven't been updated. But yeah, like most of the stock plugins, or like the core stock plugins, are here. So I use the Restream plugin for OBS to get my audio to you. Question from Luca. Just bought the video course from Reaper blog. When I put a video processor effects like the RGB correction, the effects apply on all tracks below the track. How can I avoid this? So first of all, thank you for buying the course, trying out the plugins, or the presets, I should say. The trick with that, if you don't want it to, there's two tricks, I think. If you don't want the tracks below to be affected, let me try to find some video. Let's just take this. Okay, so let's say I go with that, and then maybe some sort of transition file. Let's put this thing in there. So I've got this image above my video. And I want to apply some effect to this, like video processor. And we'll just composite it first. So what's that called? Light and screen overlay. Okay. So I've composited that. And if I want to change the color of this as well, add another instance, and let's do color controls, I guess. So if I change the contrast on the layer above, it's affecting both. One thing I'm going to try, I'm not sure if this is the one, but yeah, there is this function, apply track effects only where track has items. And so I'll show you what this looks like. If I put all right, so I'll turn off this effect. And so that contrast setting changed the video below, even though there's nothing there. So that's one sort of potential issue you can run into. This prevents that, where it only processes effects for this track when there's an item there. But that doesn't really prevent the processing from kind of going through to the next thing. So what we can do is alt drag and put it on the actual item. And did that work? Unfortunately not. Damn. Oh, there we go. Color controls have to go before the overlay. Yeah. So hopefully I explained that. If you have a video item and you want to apply a certain effect to it, it's best to do it on the item, and some other processing you can do on the track. So is there a way to block out a portion of a video rather than applying an effect on the whole screen? Sometimes. You can do things with masks. Or you can modify the plugin. So in the color controls, for example, I don't know if I can specifically do this, but basically scroll up. Okay, you can see that now. This GFX fill rect, that's fill rectangle, and this is set to start at the first pixel at the top left, and then it's the width of the project and the height of the project. So you could modify this to start in a certain position and end in a certain position. So like my, what is it, box thing, drop box annotation. I'm just choosing where to draw this rectangle so I can move it around. Change the height, change the width. All I'm doing is changing the positions of that fill rectangle code, this thing here, using parameters. So yes, any of the color things can be modified. In general, like my presets don't do that. The built-in presets don't do that, but you could definitely do that. The one thing I was trying to get working with that is blurring. I don't know if I kept that. No, I think I got rid of that. Anytime I update my course with new presets, I have to like delete everything I'm not using just to export a list. But yeah, there's a bunch of things that I was working on and then got distracted because of the pandemic. Yeah, lots of work in progress stuff that I'll probably never get back to. Anyway, where's that question? I lost it. Global input quantize. You just need to enable it for the tracks that you're using it on. I lost the original question. Where was the person was asking about the video stuff? I lost it. Being able to block out a section of video is necessary at times to hide bad comments in a game or something like that. Yeah. So let's get rid of this item. So I'll just put in an empty MIDI item in the project. Set it for whatever length you want. And then on this, put in the video item. I use MIDI items because they have effects chains. Obviously, you're not putting MIDI in there. You can also rename them, certain things. So let's take my simple text overlay. Right. It automatically gets the track name, but I can rename this and video title, update, and that's there. So that's one possibility. And specifically for removing something or blocking something out, what is it? Solid color fill adjustable size. And if this is something you're using a lot and you need to automate the position, it's really useful to touch one of the parameters and then assign it to the mouse wheel and the dragging. So X video position X. I'll just do that one. And then I can drag on the actual video window. And do that. And then Y, learn Y. Yeah. So now I can drag that box around. You can use mouse wheel for the height and width, things like that. Yeah, thank you. I don't know why I'm not seeing that in the chat anymore, but maybe just screw it. Oh, it was Lucas' question. It just scrolled down a bit too far. Thank you. I was just seeing if there was a follow-up. Luca, do you have any follow-up questions with the video stuff? Right. So if you want to block out, let's say I want to block out the brand on the guitar, do something like that, and change the height, change the width. And you could probably even match the color. Almost. Yeah, but I would do something like that. And sometimes you need multiples, and hopefully it's only on screen for a moment. So if I wanted this to like really block that out, I would probably just do a second one of these, and they're both moving at the same time. But yeah, I think you know what I mean. Just like block it out, something like that, but more careful. Can you see that? You're just doing that. Vertical pulse, live input quantize. For what, MIDI? What else would you be quantizing? I'll wait. Danny asks, well, I'll just copy this. Question from Danny: do you use Spitfire Audio Orchestra? If so, do you have to open a unique instance of Spitfire for every instrument, or can you use one instance and MIDI map the different sounds needed? It depends on the one you're using, but I'm pretty sure that their latest one, like the BBC stuff, it's one instance of the plugin per sound that you want. Yeah, that's how we set it up with the template. I wonder if I even have this installed. I don't think I do. Track from template, instruments, Spitfire, BBC Orchestra, Discover. I'm not sure if I have this plugin installed on this computer, but yeah, the way we set it up was different folders, and each track has a plugin. Oh, I do. Assigned to a specific instrument, and then they're all stereo out, and then there's a couple different expression, dynamics, reverb controls on the track. This is a template you can download from Reaper blog. And so we set this up with 4 different folders and then 27 total tracks. I'm pretty sure is everything available in the free plugin. Roberto says, how do you avoid silent bits when rendering 320 kilobit MP3? I get silent parts, little ones, not enough RAM. I can't say that I've ever run into that. I'm not sure what that could be. I would expect it to be a specific plugin that's misbehaving. And so you'll have to go through, you could mute a few mute half the tracks or bypass half the plugins, and if you still get the silent bits, then you know that it's in the other half. And then from there, if you know it's in that half, take half of that, mute those as well. Just narrow it down, and should be pretty simple. Silent parts sounds like an issue with a plugin. Nothing inherent with MP3 that will give you silent parts. But if it's a plugin that like gets unlicensed while rendering, then it could be that. So a way to route more than 2 signals into recomp sidechain, like kick and snare and vocals, so they all act separately to one another. Yeah, it just same sends, same way as you would do with one. Let's get this on the screen. Is there a way to route more than 2 signals into recomp sidechain, like snare, kick, and vocals, so they all act separately to one another? It should all be the same. Everything will get summed together. You know, you only have one threshold control on recomp anyways, so there's not really anything else you can do with that. I guess you could tweak it in a way so that all right, let's see if we can figure something like this out. So there's our this track will be the one we do compression to. Let's do compression to, and this one will be trigger compression, and I'll just duplicate this. Let's get some all right, kick and a snare, and let's take a pad and no slicing. So, I don't know. All right, so I'm just going to mute these or make them not go at the master. So we're going to add in recomp on here. Do I have this in my favorites? No, of course not. Okay, so we're going to drag from the routing button onto the plugin from the first track, bring it up at unity gain, and make sure that it's on output 3/4, and then repeat the same function for second track, also going to 3/4. And detector input, auxiliary left and right. So it's reacting to whatever is coming in on input 3 and 4. Let's modify that in a way. So let's take an EQ, for example. So put an EQ before recomp and set its plugin pins to 3 and 4. Now we're seeing the kick and the snare in the EQ, and so we could take out all the lows from the kick. We could even take a second instance of recomp. Let's take the first one and actually set its main input to 3/4 and main output to 3/4. And now set this to main input. Is that right? Yeah, main input. So now I'm compressing the sidechain signal and then sending it to the next track. So anything, yeah, just think about it as like different paths for the signals to go, and using the plugin routing connectors to change where it's going. So EQ, volume adjustments, compression, whatever you need can be in the sidechain path before the main plugin that actually does the compression. Hopefully that explained that. Yes, my template is available to download for the Discovery. It's definitely in, I'm pretty sure it's in the video, what do you call it? BBC. Pretty sure it's in the video description. Yeah, Dropbox link in the video description, so enjoy. Do you use any video software or 100% Reaper? I'm wondering if Reaper can be completely sufficient with a bit of work here and there. Let's get that on screen. I'm just doing this because I don't know if I'm going to actually edit this into a video. Probably won't, but yeah. Yeah, just so everyone can see, and sometimes the chat thing is hard to read. Not everyone has a chat open. So yes, I use Reaper for 100% of my video production. I guess the only other things I would use are FFmpeg, just for things like preparing my files for editing. So I use Streamlabs OBS for my capture software, and that gets me high quality video with all my camera angles and stuff built in. I'm using a Stream Deck to change camera angles. Let's see if my second camera, oh, amazing, my second camera is still working. I never expected to, but it is wired today instead of Wi-Fi. So yeah, I record everything through here into a multi-channel, or it has multiple tracks of audio, and Reaper doesn't get the audio tracks automatically, just the first track. So I have to use a tool called AV Convert, which is just an implementation of FFmpeg. I'll show you what that looks like in action. I talked about it in a video before, I think. If I go to my capture folder, which is empty, let's take video projects folder. So if I take this capture file, right click, I've got convert audio, so I can get my first channel as a WAV file. I can get the first channel left only. So that's it. He implemented this exactly as I asked it for. So I click this button, I just get my microphone out of that video file, and I go to the second option here, and I can get my first, second, third, or fourth streams of audio out of this. So like that, depending on how I have it set up in Streamlabs, I've got my vocal mic, I've got my desktop audio, I've got output of Reaper, I've got USB microphone, any of the sources I can choose where they go into the video clip. So after it's processed, I've got my voice file, and I've got my streaming, or my output of Reaper on a separate file. I dump them all into Reaper and just pretty much start editing. I love that it edits similar to audio, and yeah, just it's the best video editor for audio people, I think. Yeah, just being able to make all kinds of audio edits, or editing video to the dialogue. That's how I always do it, and I don't think there's a better way for me. Live looping performance with Mobius needs input quantize, not recording input quantize. I don't know. So let's think about this. I think there is a JS plugin that can quantize. No. I thought there was. I guess not. No. I don't do live looping, so I don't think I'm going to understand that one. Prodigy child. I'm just going through other questions. You've asked a bunch. Do you use autotune? No, I use the Reaper's tuner if I have to. I also have Melodyne, one of the versions. I don't like it, but I've been lucky enough to not need to use autotune or anything like that in years. Do you mix and master? How do you mix and master multiple vocals? You just do it. Start with the volume, then EQ, compression. See what processing you can do on multiple layers at once to save time or effort. Do whatever is needed. How do you avoid latency? I've done a few videos on this already. Not ignoring you, just we're talking about something else for a moment. Sammy asks, do you ever want to use a different theme? Since you make tutorial videos, maybe you're stuck with the default theme. So other interfaces would confuse people. For a while, I was using my own preferred theme, which was called Alternate, I think it was. I forget who made it, but yeah, I was just constantly having to answer the question of what theme it is, or people would be confused about where to find things. So when Reaper 5, when Reaper 5 came out, I pretty much stuck with the default. It was default 5 nitpicky edition, and then I think I changed a few things on my own with that. Now I'm using a modified version of Reaper 6 that looks similar. So I'll show you. Like, you might not even notice the differences, really. So it's pretty similar, but yeah, just a few things I prefer. The grid line colors, the I don't know, the toolbar buttons and things like that. Just a few tweaks, but nothing crazy. I didn't want to like completely redesign anything. I changed the order of the transport buttons, I think. Yeah. I hid some things, moved things around, but I can never get it exactly as I wanted. Do I have any other favorite DAWs? I used FL Studio for a really long time. I bought it probably in, I don't know. It must have been like version 4 or something like that. Like, I was using that heavily for years. Studio 1 is okay. I haven't used it since version 2, I think. I hate that there's different versions of it that have different restrictions or feature sets. I've always hated that in a DAW. I don't use BandLab. So Reaper is, once I started using Reaper, I realized that I could do everything I need in Reaper. And then version 5 came along and I could edit videos, and that got rid of like 3 other pieces of software that I was using for making videos. Yeah, now it's like my job to talk about Reaper. What iPhone app do you use to live stream with it as a webcam? Epoch Cam. And it should be able to work wirelessly, but I constantly have issues with that. Have to reinstall the app or have to restart the computer, things like that. And when I just need it to work, plugging it into the computer and opening iTunes for whatever reason, that's what the trick to get it to connect. But it has pretty decent latency. I don't know. You can see it here. It looks weird. But there's different quality settings. This is on the highest quality, I think. Lower latency with lower quality, but this looks okay for iPhone. But you can't change things like exposure or anything like that. It's all auto. Do I have a walkthrough on vocals? Sure. Go to mixingandreaper.com. This is my website. And take beginner course, mixing course part 1 to 3. And I think vocals are in the third one mostly. Vocal tuning is in here. Tuning layered vocals. Yeah. But if you go through this course, you'll learn a lot. EQ, compression, all this stuff. I have no good reason for why this is 3 parts anymore, but I did do them over several months initially. And if you want more in-depth stuff, I've got the Mixing Reaper series. Volume 3 has vocals. Yeah, volume 3 has vocals. The first 2 don't. Noticeable latency. Yeah, I think it depends on the phone that you're using. This is an iPhone something SE from a couple years ago, so it's not like amazing. I think it's a 4K camera, but if I set that to 1080 or 720, it'd be faster. It just won't even connect some days without the cable. I'm still waiting for like DSLRs and stuff to come down in price. I bought the G7, the angle you're seeing now. I bought it over a year ago. I think it was like $800, and then I put on another $700 lens. Well, I got it for $700, but it's like a $1,200 lens. And I haven't found that camera to come down in price, and I was really hoping it would. So then I could just use 2 cameras with the same resolution and settings and everything, and just colors matching really nicely. Because, yeah, well, the autofocus on this camera sucks, but oh well. What if I put these side by side? Oh, it's turning the wrong way. I'm a professional. Okay, so yeah, that's the quality difference between the iPhone and the. Bring that over.
Yeah, you might want to open it. There you go.
I just got a T-shirt in the mail. He's not here today, but I just got my new shirt from Baritone Obsessed, the bun on YouTube. Super cool. If you don't know the Bun, he's a Reaper user. He is a small YouTuber, and his channel is all about baritone guitars, which I don't own one, but check out this shirt. It's so cool. It's awesome. He's a graphic designer by trade, but he does videos on YouTube with a fantastic aesthetic, super positive. Yeah, so I like to support other YouTube channels, channels that are smaller than mine. Half the t-shirts I wear are from YouTube channels. Pat's asking, how have you found the transition to Windows? Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been talking about this for almost a year now. I guess I switched in April, and it was just sort of temporary. I thought I would use it as a second computer, keep working on my Mac, but do the streaming from the PC, like run a cable into the video or do a video capture on the PC, but actually do all the work on the Mac. But it just worked so well that I just stuck with the PC. Having all those USB ports is pretty nice. But now I'm at this point where I want to go back to Mac, because there's a few things that are just more difficult on PC. It's been great to be able to play games. Like I've been playing 7 Days to Die. I've been playing Diablo 3. I haven't played it in a while, but I've got Satisfactory on this computer, and it runs it pretty well. Is Reaper a programming software? Can be. One of the main things that I use for my video edits, on the Windows version, there's a bug, and I cannot get it resolved. Basically, if you copy and paste really quickly, Reaper will get confused, or something gets confused, and then it just breaks. And so a very specific workflow that I use for every single video, half the time, at least half the time, it just doesn't work. It only performs like a random amount of repeats instead of the precise amount of repeats I want. So I have to save my project, move it to my Mac over the network, make one change, and then bring it back. And yeah, I've been fighting with that for months. Mac just feels more comfortable for me. I think streaming on it was harder because I was always dealing with CPU load and things like that. Right now I'm at 6% CPU in Streamlabs OBS. And we're streaming 1440p. I've dropped some frames, but that's probably when switching between different cameras. But it's been pretty solid as far as I know. See what YouTube is saying. I think the quality has been good the entire time. Yeah, stream has been healthy the entire time, so that's nice. The lack of dedicated video cards for Macs is the real issue for completely switching back again. But also, if I switch my main computer to Mac again and then use my PC for streaming or recording, then I got to transfer this stuff back to the Mac. And that's just, anytime I have to do transferring or conversions or anything like that, it's slowed me down. It's one of the reasons I use Streamlabs or OBS to record now instead of, what was it called? ScreenFlow. Is that if you're editing in ScreenFlow, it's fine because there's just one export process. But if you're recording with that and then editing in another software, you need to render, and that took an hour So every video took an extra hour before I could even start editing. It was very annoying. Reaper always gives me grief when using an aggregate device. Yeah, I try to avoid those, but yeah, Windows has been pretty good, better than expected. I see lots of people having issues with it. Maybe I just spent enough that I got in the sweet spot. I didn't spend too much where it's got elite problems, and I didn't like cheap out on the hardware either. But it was more expensive than I thought it was going to be. Even having to buy the operating system, I forgot you had to do that. Yeah, but it's been pretty smooth overall. But I feel more comfortable with the Mac. It's like I like the hardware. I just don't like the lack of dedicated video cards. And I know that buying an eGPU could solve the streaming issue, but it wouldn't help with producing videos in Reaper, because Reaper only uses the CPU for that, which has been, in terms of performance, it's been fine on the Mac or PC. On a 6-year-old Mac now, that always handles all my footage, no problem. Any Windows settings that is important? Yeah, maybe. I haven't done a lot of config things because everything just kind of worked. Trying to think of anything. I'm just gonna have a look here. There's like performance. I don't know. Yeah, so there's this page here, performance options. I have it on auto for visual effects and things. I know there's probably other ways of doing it, but I'm not running into issues constantly, so I just left it alone. Is Kenny Joa an android? No. He's real. I've talked to him. You guys can't handle him at full speed. But if you want to hear him at full speed, just listen to his podcast from a couple years ago. I love Reaper, but I really enjoy the way some other DAWs line up plugins to adjust my parameters at once. You know what I'm referring to? No. Lineup plugins. Oh, like the effects chain in Ableton? Yeah. That's nice. I don't have a Reaper way of doing that, I don't think. Or not anything that's easy anyways. Administrator settings, file extension settings. Yeah, I may have messed with that. It's been almost a year, so I haven't tweaked a lot of things recently, but there's lots of little things like it's like when you take a screenshot, it opens up that editor instead of just saving it to the desktop or saving it to the pictures folder. So now I'm kind of using that to my advantage for doing the live streams. When someone has a question, I can put that on screen and zoom it in. Oh, there's a big one. Zooming in your screen. There's no clean way of doing that on Windows. It's just super ugly. The built-in magnifier app. I don't even remember how to use it. It's so ugly. It's so pixelated. I hate it. On Mac, it's smooth. It's crystal clear up to like 800%. So if you make videos, that like being able to zoom in cleanly at will saves so much editing time. But now I'm kind of stuck with having just 2 preset zoom settings, and I still screw up pretty often by opening up like the Media Explorer here and having half of it cut off because I haven't gone into my screen capture software and moving it down so you guys can see it. So it's a constant struggle. Dave Miller says, let me screenshot this. I would love to use Reaper live with OBS. I'm on Mac and have the Loopback app. I can't get things to work super well, especially with monitoring. Any advice? I don't remember any of my settings for that. I can have a look at Loopback right now. I wish I could share my screen easily. I can't. Oh, makes this. So these are the settings that I used. Oh. So these are the settings that I used for my streaming loopback. So most things go into channels 1 and 2, and then I'm monitoring 3 and 4 for some reason. Maybe I wasn't even monitoring it. I don't listen to myself in headphones when I'm recording. So, you know, maybe there's different concerns for you than for me. But I think that all worked pretty smoothly. Buffer size thing on Mac. It should be there in Reaper's settings. Outside of there, I can't remember if audio MIDI setup has that. I don't know. Yeah, it should just be inside of whatever things are using core audio for buffer size. We've been doing this for a while. Hour and 40 minutes. Currently 50 people here. Haven't found too many good resources. No, gotta remember to do this. This question is, haven't found any too many good resources on developing JSFX. Do you have any? I don't have any myself, but I will recommend one. Something I was just looking at from Admiral Bumblebee, how to write a Reaper MIDI JSFX from scratch. Yeah, I would go through this one, follow along. There's this, and he must have other things in here, resources. There's the Reaper API. There is, I don't know, that in the forum. If you once you get stuck, post on the forum and people can help. Wargram, question about core audio buffer size. Yeah. I'll show you what it looks like. Well, I mean, you know what it looks like if you have a Mac. So it says request block size. As long as that is checked, that sets the block size for the driver. That's all there is to it. Show multiple rows of tracks when size permits. How do I get rid of it? Every time I open Reaper, it's selected. Default project template. So set it once, save a project into the templates folder. Make sure that Reaper is loading that as default. Having trouble to set up low latency mode to use MIDI USB keyboard to virtual instrument situations. Any advice? It's nothing to do with the USB MIDI keyboard, but having a good audio interface makes a big difference. So if you're using like built-in sound card, it's not going to be able to run at low latencies without huge CPU spikes and dropouts and stuff. But a good audio interface will let you do that. And then the other thing to reduce latency, watch out for plugins in the effects chain causing latency, like limiters and things like that. Yeah, Fireface 800 with a Mac Mini, that should be fine. Latency, though, I mean, it's all the same. It's all the same settings. So, so you'd be looking at this page, setting it to 128, 64, something like that. Unless you've got a really big project, then, I mean, it should be fine. Is there a circle of fifth rescript? There are a couple MIDI scripts. I'm gonna blank on the name of it. There's a few things for music theory. Locusana Theory Helper. Choose a rescale. I don't know if I have this. I don't think I have this set up. Okay, there's that one. There is I forget what they're called. There's a couple things that help with music theory. Yeah, chord gun does it, but you'd need to understand circle of fifths first, I think. But I think the Locusana one, scales are in the data folder. Theory Helper. There's another one that's similar to this, and I'm just drawing a blank because I looked at these like when they first came out, and let's try this one. There we go. So scales, chords, harmonies, things like that. I wanted to do a video about them, but it's a lot to understand. So if I don't feel like I can accurately explain what's going on, I just don't even attempt it. There is another plugin. I can't remember what it's called, or not plugin, script for music theory, but I forget what it's called. I probably have it written somewhere. It's not chord gun. Thank you, Sammy, for letting me know about the rescale file. I would have eventually found it. But I get impatient when doing these live streams. If I can't find it in 5 seconds, then I feel like I'm making people wait forever. How to do MIDI note slides like in FL Studio, trying to do bass guitar slides. There isn't really a slide tool. If your plugin responds to portamento control, this one, then maybe that's all you need. But I don't know for sure. It's going to depend on the plugin. But there isn't like a slide function like in FL Studio. You could always program it in FL Studio and then import it. Although maybe exporting MIDI loses that slide function. Not really sure. Do you use the 32-bit version of Reaper ever? No. I don't think, like since 2011, I don't think it's been necessary to use 32-bit. I don't use any 32-bit software. Actually, that was something that's kind of confusing about Windows. So much of it is still 32-bit. Like the program files x86 folder still has tons of stuff being installed into it. Like, why? And Mac has been 64-bit exclusively for a few years now. It's just strange to me. Haven't made any music since bought Reaper. Well, yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people. But, you know, once you get it set up the way you like, it's going to be great. It takes some time though. I think we're going to end it here. It's been almost 2 hours, I think. So yeah, I really can't go on much longer than this. So yeah. Thanks to my patrons, YouTube channel members. We got one more stream coming up tomorrow. I don't know the topic yet, but thank you all for joining me on this live stream. It's been a lot of fun and talked to a lot of people. And yeah, it's just amazing that we were able to do this. I need the human interaction, and this is the closest thing I can get right now. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, at 10 a.m. Pacific. Hopefully you can make it as well.